24 debate. We're wondering, can Egypt avoid descending into civil war? With us to talk about it from London, Hani El-Deeb of the Muslim Brotherhood's Freedom and Justice Party. Here in the studio, activist Shahinaz Abdel Salam of the Constitution Party, Al-Dastur of Mohammed Al-Baradei. He's France 24's former Cairo correspondent, Igal Sadoun. And in Washington, Barbara Slavin of the Atlantic Council, who also contributes to almonitor.com. Barbara, listening to the discussion and to some of the reactions we've had so far, how has your view of the situation evolved in the, 6 days since Mohamed Morsi was ousted?
Yeah, well, it's quite frightening, frankly. This violence obviously has to stop. And whoever started it, the fact that the military used live ammunition on these people, I think, was inexcusable. The last thing you want to do is have more martyrs in a situation where you have an Islamist group that has a long history of being repressed and that has many martyrs and, of course, has caused many deaths in Egypt. So hopefully, cooler heads will prevail. They will have an investigation into what happened. The authorities will stop using live ammunition on demonstrators. I think it's also quite frustrating that they've shut down the channels, the television channels of the Muslim Brotherhood. I hope this is a temporary measure. What they need to do is name an interim cabinet. They already have an interim president. They have to calm the situation, and they have to announce new elections at a date certain, and announce also that all political groups that renounce violence will be able to participate in those elections. I think that's really the only hope for salvaging the situation and preventing it from descending into even worse clashes.
We're going to pick up on the point you just mentioned there about how to name that new government in a moment. First, though, we want to welcome into the studio at this point France 24's very own James Creedon. James.
Evening, François.
Nice to see you. Time for our Media Buzz segment. You heard the to and fro that we saw in part one of our discussion over what transpired overnight, and it seems as though the competing narratives are also playing out over the internet.
They absolutely are, François. Let's first of all go to these pictures that have been circulating on social media, uploaded by people in the street who had their smartphones and who captured these pictures of army snipers. You can see one here up on a rooftop, and he appears to be firing into the crowd. So these are the sort of pictures, François, that are circulating on social media, which are painting the army in a very bad light. Also, you might note what appears to be a cameraman alongside that sniper. I don't know, you can speculate, is that the army also trying to capture pictures that will support their narrative? There are two narratives very much playing out here. To simplify, obviously, there are more than just two.
And we saw
this is why we need investigation. This is why we need investigation, because everyone is putting his point of view in a video and uploading online, and this is really a mess. And it just makes more violence.
Right. And just to show a couple more of those pictures, François, you have videos such as this one here. Now, I won't show you because it can get actually quite gory, but that's had about 587,000 views, and it shows dead bodies on the streets of Cairo. Now, on the other side of the story, as we were seeing this afternoon, there was the army spokesman who was putting out pictures supporting, I suppose, another narrative, i.e. that there was self-defense involved, that the army was being, I suppose, targeted with, there were photos and images of bullets, of weaponry that had been confiscated. Also, photos being circulated online of Syrian children who were killed, and the army claims that sometimes the photos of Syrian children were being presented as Egyptian children who had been killed in the violence over the last 24 hours.
It was in the website of the Muslim Brotherhood. Yeah.
Right. So, debunking of the stories on the other side. So, it's difficult, I suppose, to verify exactly what is true, because this is communications and PR.
Sorry. What is this difference to predict? Who died on the street? Are they real or are they fake people died on the street? I'm just asking, you know. We need to be honest. I'm sorry when we are mentioning these things. There are supporters of Morsi who has been killed in the street by the army and their group. Full stop. This is something, there is no excuse.
Investigation, Mr. Hani. You couldn't say it like this.
I am sorry, there is no excuse for using live animation by the army regardless. And I will ask a simple question. We had a lot of million marches and demonstrations during the 1 year for Morsi. How many of the opponent of Morsi has been killed during 1 year, and how many of the Muslim Brotherhood has been killed just in the last 5-6 days? to know the difference. Okay, how many TV channels has been closed during what means a different situation?
And you know that the leader of Muslim Brotherhood were calling for violence.
Al-Ittihadiyya Palace, where Morsi was sitting there more than 6 months ago.
December 2012.
With everything, and no one has been killed as well from the opponent. All the killing has been acting with the Muslim Brotherhood, and they are saying there are two parts of this.
Okay, we need to stop blood. This is what I know now. We need to stop blood. I don't want to.
Okay.
We need to stop blood.
I asked one question and you haven't answered, nor one if your guest.
Might I just pick up on that point? Might I pick up?
Hani Al-Deeb.
I think the point that I'm trying to make here is just that there are two narratives playing out on social media and online. And indeed, one of the narratives that is being silenced somewhat, certainly on Egyptian television, is the Muslim Brotherhood side of the story. And as we were looking at earlier, there were 3 Islamist television channels that were shut down. Reporters Without Borders, the Paris-based media watchdog, has said that that is alarming. So certainly there is that too, and we can see that the Muslim Brotherhood has taken to its website, because basically television is no longer a way, within Egypt at least, for them to get their story out. And headlines such as this, just one moment, premeditated massive extermination of peaceful protesters. So very strong language and subjective language, but of course, because it's on their own website. And you were just going to make the point about the Al Jazeera journalist, and there have been tweets about that as well. An Al Jazeera journalist kicked out of a press conference by state television journalists. So,
of course, this is not acceptable. To even closing the channel, I was against it. I'm still against it, because I know the freedom of expression is very important. It was one of the things that we are asking during our revolution, and we couldn't accept this. Of course, it should be temporary. It should be open very soon.
I mean, a couple of points that were made over the last number of days about the polarization of the debate. This is an image that is circulating online of one of a journalist for the Freedom and Justice Party who was killed this morning. So again, pictures like that circulating online. But the polarization of the issue of the debate in Egypt, a lot of people saying that that was a simplification of matters, that it was more nuanced than that. But then today I've been reading other blogs, such as this one on Sheep and Infidels, Sarah Carr.
Sarah Carr, of course.
Yes, and she was saying that it really is, when you go to these pro-Morsi demonstrations or anti-Morsi demonstrations, it's like being on different planets. So I don't know, perhaps there is that polarization.
Let's see if we can reconcile those parallel universes. Thanks for that, James Creedon. The issue that we were talking about, when you have these two Egypts pulling apart, is trying to form a government. Over the weekend, there was confusion aplenty when it first appeared that former UN diplomat Mohammed al-Baradei would be Egypt's next prime minister in a caretaker government. But then came a retraction, prompted by the rejection of al-Baradei by the Salafists of al-Noor. That prompted, in turn, some damage control by the interim government.
The president met with some big names. Dr. al-Baradei was one of them, but the discussions are still ongoing. In this situation, we cannot be blackmailed or put under pressure, and thus the choice is going to be a very considered one, because we are looking to form a crisis government that will be capable of passing through the current situation.
Barbara Slavin, you were mentioning just a short while ago about forming a government. Wow, that's proving more and more difficult.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's a pity. Al-Baradei, of course, is well known outside Egypt, and certainly a choice that would have been welcomed in the United States and around the world. But it's very important that they choose someone who can be a consensus figure. Now, judging from the debate we've just heard, that's obviously going to be very difficult. But they need to find someone who has had reasonable ties with Islamist groups, who is not too identified with an anti-Islamist point of view, but at the same time can give a sense of representation to secular Egyptians who felt very left out over the last few months. It's imperative that they get this done soon. We also have been hearing reports of a new foreign minister, perhaps Nabil Fahmy, who was Egypt's ambassador in the United States, and a very, very distinguished one, also the son of a foreign minister. They need to start getting some people of that kind of caliber out there to represent Egypt internationally and to calm the situation. But the most important thing, as I mentioned earlier, is that the military, I know they have a lot of grievances against the Brotherhood. There's obviously a lot of enmity that existed before when the Brotherhood was quasi-tolerated, when it was illegal. But they have to stop shooting people. They have to get a handle on this and learn some crowd control techniques that are less lethal. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult for anybody to stabilize the situation.
And Barbara, we're just getting a State Department spokesperson saying as we speak that the U.S. is deeply concerned by the increasing violence and calling on Egypt's military to exercise maximum restraint. The White House saying it's reviewing whether a change in Egypt is indeed a coup. Which way is the wind blowing right now on Capitol Hill?
Well, you know, I think the U.S. has been reluctant to call it a coup because they don't want to cut off the $1.5 billion, $1.3 billion a year that goes to the Egyptian military. But, you know, if we see another scene like what we saw this morning, I think that really could tip the balance, and the U.S. would have to come out and declare it a coup and cut off the aid. So that is one lever that the Obama administration has to try to convince the military to get a handle on this and to show restraint, despite provocations, and I'm sure there are many provocations now coming from the Muslim Brotherhood and also from more violent extreme groups that have kept their heads down over the last couple of years but are still there, very much there. I'm sure there are al-Qaeda type figures who are just longing to take advantage of this situation.
All right, so we have this worry about, as you say, al-Qaeda type figures. We saw some fighting going on in the Sinai at the end of last week. We've seen that there are a lot of guns in circulation inside of Egypt. After Monday's massacre, the interim government and military, by the way, this Monday, because of what happened, losing the two main religious alternatives to the Muslim Brotherhood from that coalition that's supposed to put forth that interim government. This is the head of Al-Azhar University. He's pulled out of those talks. Al-Azhar, which at times has been at loggerhead with the Muslim Brotherhood, the head of the mosque saying he has no choice but to seclude himself at home until everybody shoulders their responsibility. Also pulling out the Salafist Al-Noor party, very much now in the thick of this political game.
During the country's first democratic elections last summer, Al-Noor established themselves as a crucial partner to the Muslim Brotherhood. Egypt's largest Salafist party came second in the parliamentary elections with over 27% of the vote. That, despite only forming 2 years ago, after longtime President Hosni Mubarak was toppled.
The
Salafists have a far more radical position than the Muslim Brotherhood with regards to religious and social issues. But they have fewer political aspirations, and they've been late in integrating themselves into Egyptian political life.
The relationship soured. Since January, the party has distanced itself from the Morsi regime as the public became more disillusioned with the government. Al-Noor, in the recent crisis, the only Salafi group not to speak out against last weekend's mass demonstrations. Days later, party chairman Yunus Makyoun publicly called for Morsi to be removed. And Al-Noor's influence shows no sign of waning. Mohammed al-Baradei looked set to be named Egypt's interim prime minister. That until Al-Noor raised concerns the former IAEA chief and Nobel Peace Prize winner would be too secular. The party's political flip-flopping has improved its standing, but it risks alienating its base.
Al-Noor is divided. On the one hand, there are the current leaders who are pragmatic and who are on the side of the transitional government. On the other hand, there's the electoral base of the Salafist party, which is close to the Muslim Brotherhood and has a strong presence on the street at the moment.
The divisions have already taken their toll. A faction of Al-Noor's hardline Islamists announced the formation of a new party over the weekend. The Egyptian chapter of Ansar al-Sharia vowed to resist against the country's new interim government.
All right, so a split amongst the Salafists, but Shainaz Abdel Salam,
Yes.
at this point, chances of a national unity government that can bring together in this difficult time both liberals and religious parties, is it fading?
Yeah, it's very difficult now, of course, and we need to have a reconciliation first, or as the solution to have like all people in the government who are not at all in politics, really technocrat. I think this is the only solution, but now I don't know what we will do. It's really very critical now. It's very, very sad.
Technocrats, but you need political decisions because there's some tough choices coming up.
Yeah, I know, but technocrat people will be like analyzing, calculating, and do what's
on paper, Al-Baradei has all what it takes, to
Yeah,
to be that person.
Yeah,
but
of course.
yet, so internationally,
why,
he's
yeah.
really recognized, and the West
he could
loves
save
him.
the economy at
The
least.
media loves
Yeah.
him, but yet on the ground, and I covered the petitions in 2010 to have a new constitution, and
Yeah.
Al Dostor party was really at the forefront of that democratization party, and they were signing on the street, and there was really a movement, but yet it failed to gather enough people in Egypt, and maybe it's
No,
the same problem
we had
now.
like 5 million in our petition during Mubarak era. 5 million people. It was really big.
It was a lot, but is
Yeah.
it enough? I'm not
Yeah,
saying.
but Mr. Baradei, he don't want any power. He just want to guide. He want to be in transition phase. Even when the Salafists said we don't want Baradei to be prime
He
minister.
doesn't want any power, but he ran for president.
But after pressure, and even now, this is the young people from rebellion Tamarrud campaigns that make pressure on him to accept even prime minister, because it was in their plan. But he don't want this. He want just to guide. And now when the Salafis say we don't want him, he just say, okay, I will not take this place.
Many people think that he made his move too quick, and he should have waited to be a little bit more desired, because now is clearly out of the game. I heard,
And more broadly, Igal Sadoun, does this right now, the way state of play is after this morning's bloodbath, does it mean that basically you have the army and the liberals all by themselves?
well, it's difficult to tell, because when the revolution happened, the first thing I thought was, is the army, is the Brotherhood going to be competent to lead such a country in this transition? And basically, it's kind of obvious that they're not. The Brotherhood took advantage of the situation to extend their powers, and the army, they don't know how to rule such a country. They were accused by people like you, Shahinaz, to restrict the media, to kill Coptic demonstrators down from the media building, and now they are supposed to find compromise. But as the proverb says, when you only have a hammer, you tend to see everything as a nail, and it seems that it's now what the army is doing.
On Twitter, we have this comment, Che Chibwana, saying, civil war is now quite unavoidable. Poor timing from the army, I should say. They shouldn't have interfered in the first place.
Yeah, this is why I say we have to have
I'm sorry, I need my time. I've been keeping polite and
we have to
silent.
have
I'm
investigation.
sorry. I left here to give her talk,
What's
and then
happening
it's in
this
between.
morning?
It's not fair.
Okay, you
I
can
think.
go ahead, Mr. Hani. You can go ahead. What
I
you
think
want to say?
we have to be fair about time here. I think here we are discussing a few things which we have to make statement about it if we'd like to make the agreement. Okay, and the first is that what happened about power transfer in Egypt doesn't happen in any democratic country. Full stop.
It's a petition. Direct democracy.
I have left you without any interruption. I told you go to school to learn how to be polite. Okay.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Please,
Go
Shahinaz.
ahead.
going
Go
on?
ahead.
Please, one at a time.
Go ahead.
I've never seen a guest like this in my life.
And I haven't seen a guest
All right,
like you.
please, Shahinaz,
Okay.
please. I must ask.
So, all of what I'm saying is this has been gone wrong. So what has been wrong? We are here facing a minority that's trying to form a government, taking minority in all the election, and we are discussing who is the prime minister. Is it Baradei Good or someone else? Is it the first time in history that you find a minority trying to discuss how to bring someone? According to what you said, in all the election has been made, all the Islamist group and the others has taken more than 80% or something, and those people try now to choose who is going to run the country. It's also not the first time in the history, but very hilarious to find a minister of defense appointing a president, and then the president starting to taking a decision, and it is absolutely chaos if we'd like to go this way.
Hani Al-Deeb, I'm interrupting you because we're getting word from Washington, the U.S., saying there is no immediate cutoff in military aid to Egypt. What's your reaction?
The Egyptian has never been caring about the 1.5 billion. It's not about the money. Here we are about moral responsibility in the democratic countries. what happened is a military coup. We don't want money from you or from the European Union, from anywhere else. We would like to be standing to your values. If this happened in your country, you will not accept it. So don't accept it or try to make it in another name under any circumstances. And as I say, I am one of those who are very happy for the Muslim Brotherhood to be a minority and only formed a couple of ministers. But this is only through the election polls, not through any other way. Otherwise, we are opening. Okay, if we agree with them and anyone go to prime minister and we went for election tomorrow and we win the election, and after 1 year, demonstration in the street, another military coup, we don't like it, no constitution, no parliament, another election again. What's the guarantee? What you are telling the Egyptian people?
Is that enough, Mr. Hani? It's okay.
Right. Over the
One who's
weekend,
deciding was enough.
over the weekend, it was anti-Morsi demonstrators protesting that the U.S. was too close to the Muslim Brotherhood, brandishing portraits of Ambassador Susan Patterson as they marched.
Ann Patterson.
I'm just confirming that the military, they didn't coup. They just listened to our will. It's not a military coup. It's our will that we don't want Ikhwan anymore in our country.
Barbara Slavin, the United States in Cairo getting accused of being too nice to the Muslim Brotherhood because of the fact that there is this debate in Washington over the coup and over suspending aid.
I don't think we can win here. Look, the United States wants what the most Egyptian people want, which is a coherent, stable government that can actually run the country properly, that can establish rule of law, and that can permit peaceful transitions of power from one government to another. Now, we knew when Hosni Mubarak was overthrown that this was going to be a difficult process, a messy process. I think perhaps a lot of us underestimated just how difficult it was going to be. But the only hope, really, is if they can get the democratic process back on track with new elections. And if the Muslim Brotherhood takes some lessons from what happened, also, they did not govern well. They tried to monopolize power. They didn't bring in people from different points of view. Now, you cannot run Egypt that way. Just because you get 50.1% does not mean that you can tell everyone else what to do and that you can disregard their views. I've written something on really an epitaph for political Islam. I think political Islam, if it wasn't dead before, it's dead now. What people want is not government by a religious party. They want competent government, they want transparency, and they want accountability. And that's true whether you're in Turkey or Iran or Syria or Tunisia or Egypt. And the sooner the parties in that part of the world understand this lesson, the better off everyone is going to be.
Hani Eldib, your reaction?
Okay, I'm sorry here, there are a lot of things of mistakes being done. When actually in France, the president been voted by 51%, doesn't mean he doesn't run the country. We have to be honest here. When you say extended their power, if you have a party in any parliament in the world...
There is a lot of institution in France.
Okay, again. Very nice, polite girl. Good girl. Carry on, girl. So here what I'm saying here, the conservative, the conservative, when they are forming government here, when they won election, they don't have anyone of the Labour in this government. When the Labour do, we don't have anyone of the conservative. We don't consider this as extension of power. That's first thing. And the second thing is try to make generalization about the failed. We admit Muslim Brotherhood has done mistakes. No one has practiced actually government in any party in Egypt. None, neither us nor the opponent, only Mubarak and his ex-regime. So Morsi has done mistake. Muslim Brotherhood has been mistake. They could adhere to the others. They could more cooperation. They could actually extend their arms to include everyone, despite what the democratic community say.
But to the point that political Islam is dead.
This is, political Islam is dead in your guest mind. That's absolutely fine. I can respect her view, as she can respect my view. That when we say
are you talking about me, Mr.
Hani? Political Islam. Tell me, sir, what happened in Egypt over a year? You asked me a question and answer, and within a year, just 1 year, they told us all the Coptic will be killed, and actually the Muslim Brotherhood killed in the last year during Morsi time is at least 100-fold of those killed from the Coptic. They told us there will be no tourism, and the tourism has been increasing. They told us they will allow women to do worse, and all of this has proven to be fabrication. So the way of political Islam is actually respecting the freedom of the people. And this is what have been practicing. And the practice of Muslim Brotherhood, although there has been having mistakes, but has proven that political Islam is in a way,
provocation
is a
against
national way.
Shia.
All right.
It was also
we'll unfortunately we'll broach that another time. But
because
Shahnaz Abdel Salam, I want to thank Hani Al-Deeb for joining us from London, Barbara Slavin in Washington, Igal Sadoun. Thank you for being with us here in the France 24 debate.